Good morning, Trumptopia. A special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's talk Trump.
Hello and welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Happy National Hangover Day. Happy Patriotism Hangover Day. Did everybody patriotism hard enough yesterday? I know I did. I did my patriotic duty and satirically lampooned and commentated on, poked fun at, and criticized every sentence of the president's speech last night in a drunken recording that I have yet to post to the internet, in part because I stopped and wrapped it up, went to bed, as far as recording those things were, and I had made 4 parts. I think some of them were like in the 20-minute long range, and some of them were almost an hour long. And I made 4 or 5 recordings, and I hadn't gotten barely but like 20 minutes into the event, of the C-SPAN coverage. So I haven't posted that yet, but I will. But good morning, everybody. Today's today always feels to me like a new year. It's like it's the first day of the second half of the new year. Like New Year's Day is like, it's a fresh new day. Start a new life in this new year, right? Exactly. So that's where we are now. We're like in the summertime, and that's what it is, right? We celebrate these apexes, these peak moments in the yearly cycle. What does war profiteering have to do with it? Oh, that's just the way that they hijack stuff and turn it into a statist propaganda machine that keeps you obedient and compliant and proud of things you didn't actually do personally and invested in corporate interests that aren't really for your own better good. But I digress. That's the hard pill to swallow of any country's national identity, not just this one. And we all have to contend with the fact that as human beings, we still need civic discourse, we still need civic organization, we still need hospitals, we still need services that, are provided by the cities and the counties and the states and the provinces, however you break it down in your regional. We still need that kind of stuff. We just don't need it to be anchored and rooted in profiteering and political power mongering and fear and hate and division and echo chambers of manipulation and control, right? Like, it doesn't need to be an oppressive system. There just needs to be a system. So, yay. Good morning. It's a new era. This is officially now, I do believe, the very, very first day, the very beginning of Act 3. For those of you who've been paying very close attention, you'll know that Act 3 is the heightening and the crescendoing of the drama, not necessarily the climax. Because in my universe, every play, no matter how many acts it supposedly has, is a 4-act play. Because the French 4 is infinitely better than the normative, non-French, mainstream 3-act play structure. Because life always has this other thing that happens after, because life isn't just the beginning and the middle and the end strung together in a neat little package. And our politics is indeed seasonal and generational, and its corruptions are both simultaneously very personally localized to what the identity of this country is, but also simultaneously ancient and deeply rooted in some trauma we committed upon ourselves millennia ago. So, it's a mess. But hey, at least it rained on his parade for reals. High five, Mother Nature. I mean, no offense, you guys. I'm not out to hate him. I just think it's adorable that it happened and that it should have been a little bit of like a humbling experience. Like, you know, his speech was not the grand, unifying, inspirational, eloquent, theatrical thing that we would want and aspire any president, hope and believe that any good president would really be able to give on such an occasion. Especially after making a big stink about it being the best in the world ever in the history of America. And we can get caught in the weeds. One of the reasons I have not posted what I recorded last night, one of the reasons I didn't do it live was because I was really very self-aware of what a massive, delightfully inviting ego trap it is to wade right into the political comedy punditry realm of poking a little bit of fun at the president in a vulnerable moment. Arguably, and I haven't seen what is on the news today. I haven't checked into the media jibber-jabber device as of this morning because I wanted to do things a little different. And I did. I kicked off things with a twist. I made a recording for our royal we. Everyone's been using it so much lately, it's been creeping into my own word choice. But we have a show that's sort of like a sideline. It's the only segment that's separated out as a different show from the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's Almost Daily Zencast. Good Morning Trumptopia, news, breaking news, irrelevant movie reviews, etc. Kind of like I'm a comedian making fun of what our media is, but also sort of aspiring to be a part of it because it'd be a fun job to have. So that's a different cloud, right? Like a little bit less mainstream and a little bit easier to ridicule for those who are out there to troll and hate, of course, but a little bit more specialized and a little bit more focused on something that I actually take very seriously and dedicated to an audience that would also take it a little bit more seriously is a project that I think you'll find engaging if you want to check it out. It's called The Incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's Tarot Journal and Cartomancy Radio Reading Hour. Or something along those lines. I tend to often screw up my own titles to shows that I'm making up. So, yeah, here we are. I did that this morning, totally out of routine. I haven't done a recording for that show in a really long time. So, yay. Look forward to that. I haven't posted it yet. Might do it while I'm on here now, live, just for the fun, weird sort of meta reference, self-reference of it. But that would require me paying more attention to multiple screens than I already am when I'm just rambling at you about stuff. So where are we today, Trumptopia? Hungover, right? Regretting the way we spent our day yesterday a little bit, maybe? In that sort of like, ugh, what a gross, yucky, muggy day, cloud of shame hanging over us all as we all do a walk of shame home from whatever hyper-partisan, hyper-patriotism we may or may not have engaged in last night as celebrateurs of the great American military might that we pretend is not the industrial military complex brainwashing us into normalizing organized murder for profit as a regular, and fine and dandy go-to business choice and or option, career path. Join the military. Kids, everybody join the military, kids. As we recover from everything, of course, one can't help but giggle at just all of it, the layers of it, of just the absurdity. Did I not, and I hope I don't sound like I'm patting myself on the back too much, but when an observation bears itself out, and we need to verify that that is so. Is not one allowed a little bit of pride taking in it? If we're gonna be proud of this and proud of that and pride over here and pride over there, even though it's one of the 7 deadly sins, and we're not supposed to be proud, which is of course a conundrum and a mystery in and of itself. How do we navigate that? Put a pin in it. We'll make an episode about that if we haven't already. But I take a little bit of pride, if I may, with a humble dash of humility, in acknowledging and or claiming that I'm on the record, on the social media record, of being the first and maybe the only critic of the great, illustrious, charismatic, and seemingly unimpeachable Donald Trump. That he's a clusterfuck of artificial fail. Maybe the artificial I'd never said out loud, but he is a clusterfuck of failure. That is his genius. That is his modus operandi. That is what success he touts is a big fucking... Remember that cartoon character from the Charlie Brown show that was just like Pigpen, and he was just a dirty, dirty kid, and whatever. I don't know if that was an inclusive commentary of welcoming and it's okay to be a dirty, dirty kid, or what was going on with that. But there was a dirty, dirty kid who, like, no matter where he went, he just, like, shed a cloud of dirt and, arguably, I guess, filth from himself. That's Donald Trump. Except instead of physical, literal dirt, it's like, I'm a fuck up and I just fuck everything up and I ruin things. And I get away with not having to pay for it. And I sue people, or threaten to sue people, but then not really sue them because I won't win. But by threatening to sue them, I make a lot of hay bales. That's his modus operandi. That's the way he ran Trump University. And if that isn't going to be the perfect indicator of how he was going to run the United States of America, I don't know what else in his career could have been. And much hay has been made about Trump University, and much... let's just ignore that. That's not really him. It wasn't his fault. Hubbub of defense. It was a straight up, like, bullshit snake oil salesman, dead horse trader con job of a business that he ran, that he smothered his face and image and logo all over, that he should own and take responsibility for, and that he has never recompensed the people that he stole money from. And that's exactly what it was. He stole money from people, selling them the promise and not delivering on the empty promise that he was going to, as a certified outfit of education, with all the legal paperwork in a row, to actually give people a degree of some kind, that he was going to give them something that he never did at all. That's the way he ran a school. How do you think he was going to run being president? And his supporters, bless their hearts, and I mean seriously, I don't hate them. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Donald Trump, you guys. I just see him for what he is, and I'm not afraid to call him out for what he is, and I'm trying to encourage everyone else who does not see him for what he is, regardless of which side of the political echo chamber they may be on, because a lot of people on the left do not see him accurately. They're full of rage and hate, and yes, there's plenty to be upset about, but they do not see him for what he actually is. Which, for those who may have not heard me say it yet, spoiler alert, I'll get right to the thesis of the whole thing with Trump. He's a mirror to show us everything that's wrong with our collective society. He is not a person to vilify. There are no villains. There are no heroes. There are just flawed human beings failing to avoid the slippery slope of ego traps as set out for us by ego. That's what's going on. At the root of it. At the place where guns don't matter. At the place where we want real solutions, that's where we got to start. That's the root. The source. And the Trump and all the other bad actors, all the other bad players, all the other puppets, whether you think they are or not puppets, they're just puppets because we are all just puppets. Even me. We are puppets to the divinity within us, and we are puppets to the, its dark side, its shadow, which is what tempts us to be the worst versions of ourselves and do horrible things to ourselves and each other and the womb that gives birth to us. But holy cow, when you dress it up, when you put it all out there, right? He does a great job of making it entertaining. That's what I wanted to come around to full circle here. This con man, this false prophet, literally and figuratively, this liar, this cheater, this betrayer of truths, this corrupter of family values. Hello? This destroyer of homes and of this person who does the exact opposite of what is supposed to be, America's strongly held and very coddled and very politicized family values. This fraud, this imposter pretending to be a Christian, right? This imposter pretending to be a man of virtue. This imposter pretending to be a person capable of doing the actual, however tedious or meaningless or corrupt or not necessarily, appropriate or the best for our world thing we call governance. This guy is getting away with it because people believe in him with their blind faith, right? And it's about that. And at that level, it's not about his policy. It's not about the specifics of the promises he's broken. Because, you can get lost in the weeds there. You can go for days and days debating and then getting into the things he has delivered. Are they really good for us? Have that conversation for a week with people who just going to blindly say, everything he's done is infallible. Everything he's done is perfect. He is the second coming of Christ. Right? The people who really believe that here, which is scary. And I always like to remind folks every day that because we cannot get caught up in whatever latest outrage and forget that people think he's the second coming of Christ. Right? And not only is that preposterous, not only is that frightening, we have to have an intelligent response to it. Not just dismiss Jesus because this country is already torn at its very root. Like, we're constantly referring to, whether we are this kind of religious or that kind of religious or not religious at all, we're constantly referring to or arguing about this fight that we're having for the soul of the nation. I speak to you, my dear audience, as someone who believes that this is a living, breathing, divine entity we call a place. So, of course, whatever imaginary, spiritual, mind meld, confused mindfuck thing that we create in our brains that we project out because that's what they do and try to manifest. I live in a universe where what you believe is trying to be made real by the universe because you voted for it. And that's why I think it's important to discuss our beliefs. Not because I want other people to submit to my will, which is sort of the marching orders of a lot of people out there with really hardcore beliefs, but rather that if we acknowledge that not only are beliefs something that you hold deep within that shape your perception, because that, even at the flattest, two-dimensionalist, minimalist, materialist view, that cannot be denied, right? Even if you're just a materialist, an atheist who doesn't, you have to acknowledge in that context, in that material world you are choosing to believe in, beliefs that a person, you or otherwise, hold fervently, adamantly, with blind faith in their mind, in the theater of their mind's eye, shape their perception. Doesn't it? Of course it does. That's why we have the left accusing the right of being radical and trying to destroy the country, while the right is busy accusing the left of being radical and trying to destroy the country, and everyone else going, "What the fuck are you guys talking about? Why are you accusing each other of the same things and not realizing how stupid that sounds? And also, I'm mad at you guys, you're the problem. My group is not. Even if we're not as crazy as the extremes, we still sort of revolve around that, right?" It all comes back together to this set of questions and this conundrum, this problem of perception and of where we put our faith. Even in a materialist world where, look at the way beliefs will shape and radically impact the realities of not just those who believe in the things, but those who don't, but are subsequently impacted by those beliefs existing. For example, the belief in markets, right? In the power of the markets, in the sovereignty of the markets being more important than human beings, that leads to this oppressive, wealth extraction-based, capitalist elitism, usurping and destroying, raping and pillaging kind of normalcy in business. And curiously, for scripted reasons or for honest reasons, who knows, media pundits on all sides sometimes take a turn whacking at that piñata. And by that I mean to acknowledge and say I'm impressed / surprised / wondering where it's coming from. How did I miss this boat for the whole first half of the year? But what's his name on Fox News has really turned around on the pro-Trumpism and is no longer pro-Trump. He's sort of the one of the few rare voices of the fair and balanced rare voices at Fox News that are allowed to criticize Trump, and he's gotten pretty serious about it. As to accuse him of being involved with the profiteers, the corporate overlords, the elitists that don't really care about your needs, the little guy, whether you're a conservative or a liberal. Now, mind you, he's still coming at it from a pretty obviously echo chambery kind of way. He made this really big spiel yesterday at the middle of 4th of July afternoon about Elizabeth Warren, and she is, in her own right, worthy of a lot of attention because of the way she's approaching this process this time around. She's doing it kind of her own way. In like, if you don't notice, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you notice, it's all about the policy. She really does have a policy for everything. Everyone else is campaigning and going to campaign events and promising you that they will deliver on policy. Elizabeth Warren is dropping policy bombs. Like, boom, there's a book. It's not a promise that I will make that policy. It is the details of the policy, because I've already sketched it out. I've already sketched it, designed it, engineered it, taken feedback. I've already been working on this. I got a policy for that, right? And she's legit. She's really dropping massive volumes of information in a much more advanced, meaningful, applicable way than most of the other Democratic candidates are. Is that her scripted role? Perhaps, right? Like, Bernie is openly calling out the industrial military complex, but no one else on the stage is really taking it very much further. Some people are defending the NRA or saying the NRA isn't the problem, it's the other guys over here, the manufacturers, which is both true, right? Of course it's the manufacturers. And the NRA as its meta cult of opinion influencing is tied into all of that overtly. But I digress. We're in a fascinating place right now, folks. And it really is, I do believe, the beginning of the end of this show, of the Trump show. And I you know me, I hope, dear audience, I don't waste time trying to predict things. I do weigh in when I think something is very likely. If something is, like, might happen, I'll talk about, like, that's very possible. It could totally go down that route, right? And then I'll also talk aspirationally about what I would like to see happen. In some part because I think I'm trying to build a consensus, right? I'm trying to draw people towards a theory and a thesis and a set of stipulations or impact statements, shall we say, or calls to action. They're like, if this is so and that is so, and plus we want to change the things that are this way, why don't we do this instead? Is sort of my methodology. And the why don't we do this instead is like voting for, if life is a choose your own adventure movie and you get to vote as a group, as a whole, the whole species gets to vote in your head as to what happens, and then you find out, in the news, that's what happened. Never mind the corruption debates about news agencies. Let's just say the whole world was like that. It was an interactive movie, and then both in your personal life and in, more importantly, in terms of like the collective voting blocks and who gets to win and declare what happens, that everyone's vote adds up with everyone else's vote, and that there's clearly different blocks of people striving to achieve a mental vote for very different kinds of universes that we live in, or that we might live in, right? And I think we should rally around one that's anchored in this notion of transformative healing, not just for a special few, not just for those who have lots of money, not just for the prettiest ones, but for the evilest ones and the most corrupt ones and the ones whose names we do not know, but actually control this suicidal system of everything that we might as well chalk up to a system of oppression, because even if it isn't nefariously trying to oppress us, it's so toxic AF that it might as well be. Because fireworks kill you. And so does coffee. Never mind alcohol and cigarettes and driving drunk and all the terrible things that, it's just neglect. That's not intentional. Whatever. It's a toxic fucking system we've set up. And we keep trying to make the best of it, which is great. That's a great coping mechanism. But we also need to call it out and try to make it less toxic and go, wait, why does it have to be so toxic? Why can't we smoke tobacco and have it not be full of crazy chemicals that you pumped in that are gross and weird, and not have it also be disgusting and horrible when it's, quote, natural, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's an extreme case that it's just we shouldn't be smoking tobacco at all, except for in the rare, ritualized, traditional, spiritual senses that our Aboriginal brothers and sisters used to. Perhaps they have a good cause, but who knows? I digress. If all that's going on, the voting thing, and we're all peddling our personal model of, hey, you should vote for this, in what we say we believe in, here's what I believe in, and here's what I think we can do, not only to fix some problems, but totally leapfrog into a different way of living or thinking and seeing and experiencing the universe, a different way of perceiving ourselves and each other, a different way of communing with ourselves and each other and that which we call the world and that which we call divinity, so that all of this mishigas, all of this clusterfuck of bullshit, both the nonsensical failure kind of the Trump variety and the serious deadly kind of those idiots who shoot people and kill each other over nonsense ideas that cannot be proven and cannot win at any point this war of ideas, so that none of that even needs to be considered as possible. Never mind, and not because we've legislated it away, or that we've told and or oppressed or convinced and or molded people's minds into not being able to do it, but because the true, profound catharsis and healing and transformative clarity allows us to just genuinely love and live through love in a radically different way than we allow ourselves to even entertain in our imaginations now. Because that is not anything that is in and of itself categorically impossible. We just have been fooled and hijacked and brainwashed into assuming that it is not achievable. I think. I humbly propose to you. And that's why we make speeches in front of tanks about our prowess and our might, because we need to normalize this organized butchering of ourselves so that other people can make money, because making money is what we've told ourselves is the only thing that counts down here, which is, of course, a lie. Now, money isn't inherently evil, but making money is the only thing that counts down here is a really toxic, unsustainable, self-abusive kind of life model to adopt. And yet, here we are, worshiping the almighty dollar and pretending not to be, right? Anyways, let's kick off this new chapter, this new act, this new segment of the performance art piece that we call Trumptopia. Let's kick off this new moment in history with welcoming and encouraging sort of openness and clarity of mind to like witness what's going on and not get caught up in the bullshit and see it for what it really is, folks. That's not that hard to do. And I'm not trying to judge nobody or trying to tell people what to think. I'm encouraging you, my friends, to question your own reality, to question what the fuck you're voting for, right? If the universe is a giant hyper-real matrix illusion box of voting for what might happen, what should happen, and we collectively aggregate it through probability waveform function manifesting at the quantum level, and then boom, it happens, the fuck are you voting for? Huh? When was the last time you asked yourself that question and really, really investigated it and really, really got into the roots and the tangles of its bias and or corruption and or purity? Like, what are you voting for? And does it actually make sense? How did you choose it? Why did you choose to vote for that? Why is your universe a flat, boring, dead place full of misery and pain that you think we're supposed to like destroy and make money off of? Like, why do you believe in that? As opposed to it's your living mother that wants to love you and guide you into a better place where you can live in clarity and holistically heal each other and one another in a, transformative way that is just mind-blowingly cool. Why wouldn't you vote for the cool thing, the happier thing, the healthier thing? And not because I say so, right? But because we all need to go inside and question those assumptions. Especially if we've never looked at the universe as a giant matrix voting box of make this happen to us, please. And I'm telling you, it's much more likely that that's what's going on in reality than anything else, according to the physics and the ancient mystics and all the effort that the system of oppression puts into denying the things it denies. Once you take a step back and rearrange the puzzle pieces a little bit and go, oh, it's not about solving the front of the puzzle. It's about seeing what's on the back of the puzzle. I just made up that analogy. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but got to take a break. I'll be back a little bit later today with more crazy ramblings. As always, my friends, thanks for tuning in. Remember that even in the bleakest days and the rainiest of parades and the darkest of hours, there is always room in our hearts to forgive ourselves for our follies and to transform ourselves into a better version of ourselves right here and right now. And, with a little hard work, even more so in the not-too-distant future. Why? Because, the universe, as every ancient custom and tradition and speaker of the divine truth has tried to tell us, the universe is more love than anything else. The universe is love manifesting everything. And in that love, it splits itself off into its opposite, and we manifest and experience the absence of love and all the horrors that can be defined in that space. And instead of getting obsessed with butchering ourselves over which way of avoiding that is the most righteous, we can just return to our source and choose the light and heal the darkness and reintegrate the two so that the contrast, which is what causes the pain and the suffering, the contrast between the heights of the good and the depths of the dark, the heights, the glories of the light and the horrors of the darkness, when we reintegrate those two in what is much more accurate of a term than like killing or butchering or winning the war between those two, when we reintegrate those two within ourselves and within each other and in a meaningful collective way as a species, we might just transmute the whole fucking equation. All the things we take for granted. All the really horrible things that we are constantly told are just the way things are. All the impossible conundrums of what do you do? Do you shoot the armed shooter that's on a rampage, or what do you do? Do more guns make you more safe? What do you do? Do we all just blow each other up and start over? Instead of getting caught up in those seemingly possible and intractable ego illusions, we heal ourselves to a place where they're no longer going to be seductive enough to fall for ever again, to the point where we won't waste time arguing and debating and pointing fingers and spewing hate and demanding that some award for the most righteous version of some idea be what defines what reality is. When, in fact, we should be working the other way around, right? We should be learning what reality is from reality itself.
And that is the latest madness from behind the orange wall. Thank you for listening to GMT, a special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. Stay woke, Trumptopia. Stay woke.